and local level, presented by Location 3 Media and Wildfire by Google. We are going to get started, and we've got a lot to cover today, so we're just going to jump right in. But before we do, a couple housekeeping items. If you could all please, as you enter the meeting, mute your microphones. That'd be really helpful for keeping that background noise out. Also, we'll be using the hashtag franchise social today. So if you'd like to tweet about the event or just keep an eye on the conversation going on, please use that hashtag. You can also use our handle, Location 3 and Wildfires, which is Wildfire app. We are hoping to keep some time at the end for some questions that come through using that hashtag or in the comment section. If we don't get to that time, we will be posting this presentation and also answering some questions at the URL listed here. So please do go to that URL. You'll find a quick survey, and you can enter any questions, and we'll get back to you right away. So just to introduce some of the speakers today, my name is Angie Pascal. I am the social media director at Location 3 Media. I work with a number of franchise, multi-unit, and enterprise brands to really help to provide the strategic direction in managing social media and integrating with other strategies and other services online. Bethany, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Angie. I'm Bethany. I am a strategic partner manager at Wildfire by Google. I've been with Wildfire for almost 2 years now, and I've been leading the channel sales initiative over at Wildfire pre-acquisition and post-acquisition. So I'm really excited to be here with Angie today.
Great, thanks. And we are very excited to have you joining us today as well. So a little bit about Location 3. We were founded in '99 as a digital marketing agency, providing direct response to clients on a global scale, managing search marketing, display, mobile, social, creative, design, and development. And really just to put that in perspective, Google was launched in '98. So just 1 year later, we've been really keeping pace along the way with Google and everything that they do. We are focused very much on findability and performance across all digital platforms, helping brands to increase their findability and helping them to understand the performance and optimize ongoing. Again, I'll turn it over to Bethany.
Just to introduce briefly the program that I work with, Google's Wildfire Partner Program. Again, I've been working with this pre-acquisition, and when we came over, we really wanted to connect Google's partners with what we were doing, which is scalable business models so that partners can bring integrated digital solutions to clients that want to drive results across all channels. So today, we're just focused on kind of the business and marketing results of social marketing platform and social marketing strategy.
Great. All right. Well, let's see. I think I lost control here. Oh, there we go. All right. So enough about us. Let's get into the meat of the webinar. In about 2005, Procter & Gamble came out with this idea of the first moment of truth. And this was really the first time that consumers would experience a product. There was some type of stimulus first, and then they had this first moment of truth where they would engage with a sales representative. They would experience a product or service in a retail environment or visit a website to start to learn about that product, and then they would move on to their purchase decision. Google came out with this idea of the zero moment of truth. This happens before that first moment of truth. And this is really where the consumer is starting to drive their own research, their own education, and starting to form their own predisposition about a product or a service. This all happens before they ever talk to a sales representative, before they ever start to experience that product or service. So this is really changing the way that brands need to market to consumers because it's changing the way that consumers behave. In 2010, we needed information from 5.4 sources before making a purchase. And by the end of 2011, that number had nearly doubled to 10.4 sources. Now you can imagine a year and a half ago, this information has changed a lot in that time. If we're increasing at the same rate, we need more than 20 sources at this point before we can make a purchase decision as consumers. So we're living in this era of self-serve information as consumers, and brands need to understand how they can get out in front of consumers during this self-serve phase. So the path to purchase is no longer linear. It's really a customer-directed, socially influenced, brand-inspired pursuit of truth and opportunity for the consumer. And we really look at it, instead of a linear path to purchase, we really look at it in this honeycomb, where consumers are engaging with various types of media. They're going through the typical path to purchase phases of interest, intent, decision, on to advocacy, but they're experiencing it in a more fluid and nebulous way. So I'll turn it over to Bethany to talk a little bit more about these different media types.
Awesome, thanks, Angie. So yeah, just to kind of go off on what Angie was saying, if any of you have heard of the term Generation C, that is the generation that we all belong to, and that is the generation that rides on technology as a backbone to share content. And so as people are sharing, curating, creating, communicating this content, that is really directing the path of purchase to becoming more social. So more and more you'll hear about this Generation C as a consumer group that is relying mostly on technology to make informed decisions. And so looking at this landscape from a digital perspective, let's talk about the different types of media that Google sees. So there's 3 different pillars. The first is owned media, and that's anything that a client, a business owns on the internet. It's a property belonging to the business. So that could be a website, that could be a blog, that could be, of course, social properties, that could be media libraries, content galleries, anything that a business is maintaining and owning on the internet. So if you go to the next slide, Angie, we'll talk also about paid media, which everyone here knows, and that's any type of advertising, traffic directing advertising that is driving users towards the owned properties. So you think about the website and the blog, this Google Plus page as the destination. What are the road signs? And that's the paid media, right? That's the advertising on Facebook, advertising, search ads, display ads, PPC. That's all key for directing traffic towards owned. And finally, if we go to the next slide, which is earned media, this is really the most value add marketing channel for a business. So taking a step back, thinking about the Generation C that I just mentioned, that is the consumer generation that is creating and curating content about your business. And what is so cool about earned media is that a business cannot make earned media. A business can't buy earned media the way they buy advertising. A business can only hope that their consumers and their customers will influence their own friends to come to this business, right? So in other words, earned media is called word of mouth recommendation. And if you look at the graph on the left, which is from Nielsen's Global Trust and Advertising Report, it's saying that 92% of people trust recommendations from people they know. So if I am looking for a doctor or a tutor or a salon or a spa, I am going to ask my friends. And even if I run into advertising and branded websites and owned properties, I'm really going to trust the people that I know and the experiences that they had. And that trust level is measured at 92% by Nielsen's report. 58% is the statistic that measures the trust level that I would have on a branded website.
Hello?
So sorry, whoever just dialed in, if you could mute yourself. So going back to this slide, what we're seeing is from the 58% comparison to the 92% comparison is that earned media or word of mouth recommendations is almost 2 times as powerful as advertising as branded websites as something that your business is creating. So as a business, what is the good news for you? You can't buy it, but you can try to influence more of it. And in this training, we'll talk more and more about how a business can influence it. So the solution to these 3 different pillars of digital media marketing, we have owned media, we have paid media, and we have earned media. The solution to this is Convergent. So what does that mean? It means that none of these pillars, none of these media types stand alone, stand as silos, right? They're all working together in an ongoing strategy, in a converged strategy. So you're going to take paid media and you're going to drive traffic to your own properties. And as soon as you drive traffic, you must start engaging your audience. And that's really where social comes into play. So with social media, you can have a very personal interaction with your local customers. And that's a very unique characteristic of social. So earned comes from that engagement. And to give you an example, if I'm a big fan of HR Block. If I'm using them and if I see a TV ad by them, maybe I'll go into the store and maybe I'll use their service. But if I run into their brand and their property online on digital, I'm likely to share that, comment, like it, engage with it, and then my 2,000 member friend base on Facebook, on Google+, on Twitter, they'll all see my activity. And that's really where earned media comes into play because it's amplifying the digital reach of that business.
Great. So if you pass it back over to me, is that okay? Great. Thanks. So it's really important, of course, but why does it have to be local? Because a post from a local business can reach 5 times the percentage of fans as a corporate post. And local fans can really deliver exponentially more marketing value than corporate fans to the tune of 40 to 1. And the reasoning for that is because it's someone they know. So local fans can relate more to any localized content coming from a local business. There isn't that creepiness factor that might happen if, say, someone posts something very much speaking about their community and a local experience, and corporate comes in from who knows where their headquarters is and mentions something to that user. There is definitely a creepiness factor there that local content doesn't necessarily deal with. Local content is also more visible in news feeds. Facebook is very much prioritizing local pages and local content over any content from a national or corporate branded standpoint. And also there's a local relevance that corporate just can't understand. The local business owners, the managers really understand what's going on in the community, what types of events are going on, who are the other business owners within the area. And this type of personalized local content is really going to be so much more relevant to a user that it's going to drive more engagement, more comments, more shares, more views overall. Local social content also has a lot of local SEO value. So social activity is very much being factored into organic search results on both Google and Bing. And it's really important that brands are actively managing social media, not just for those engagements, but also for the value that those social actions and those social signals can provide. So if you'll see here, I have a couple examples. I searched burrito in Denver, and I got results from some of my friends, people that have +1 things, people that have shared content, something that I personally shared. So I'm starting to get this personalization on Google through Google Search plus your world. The same thing's happening on Bing, pulling in Facebook recommendations. I searched for plumber in Denver, and I'm starting to see people from my friend list that have recommended or at least asked for good plumbers in the area, and I can start to dig into that personal data. Local social media also really can help to level the playing field. It can give the smaller brands a bigger voice. So it doesn't require as many ad dollars as a TV buy, as a radio buy, as all of these other paid media channels, because it is that earned media or even the owned media on the social channels. Smaller brands can have a bigger voice through managing these channels. So a network of local social pages really has the potential to drive dramatically greater business results. But we understand certainly there's a lot of challenges at the local level, and these are a lot of the things we're going to be addressing today. So really some of these main challenges are balancing the corporate messaging with the consumer's desire for that local voice so that they don't approach that creepiness factor. Trusting the local managers and owners to represent the brand, to maintain brand standards. At the store level, having the resources and the time to manage social media, dealing with turnover for the employees, the ability to create content and manage content at that local level, having centralized reporting that national can look at to see what's going on, but also providing the localized insights and reporting so that the local owners can understand what's going on, how can they start to make improvements in the future. Certainly social media is always constantly evolving. There's a new channel nearly every day. So just maintaining and keeping up with that constantly evolving channel. And then the perceived costs that go along with social media. So we'll address all of these today throughout this presentation. But really the main way to address all of these is to focus on these 4 different areas. First, number 1 is making sure that you grow your audience in social media. Secondly, to engage with that audience, to provide something that's interesting, and then incentivize that audience to share and engage. Thirdly, to respond and to measure what's going on. And then fourthly, of course, to refine, to rinse, repeat, and this is a continual cycle through the owned, the earned, and the paid media channels. So starting with growing your audience, we really need to understand who that audience is. We need to understand the needs of that audience, understand their behaviors, their digital behaviors, as well as their offline behaviors, and then deliver some type of value to that audience. And this is really a lot of what social media has changed. It's no longer just talking at users. Social media, the hard sell, doesn't work in social media. It's more of a conversation, a dialogue. It's pretending that you're at a mixer and you're having, the soft sell can certainly work, but you need to be providing some type of value to those users to incent them to share content and to engage with the brand. So here's a look at how we start to create these brand personas and understand more about the audience. And this is just a sample of who one certain audience member might be. Gary Arnold, he's 58. He's from Boston, Massachusetts, and he's a VP of Finance at a large company. So really what we're trying to do here is understand who is Gary, not only from a demographic standpoint, but really understanding the psychographics and that qualitative information that goes along with it. What online sources does he use? What is he interested in learning? How does he use those sources? So that we can start to understand as a brand, not only what channels do we need to be on, should we be on Facebook versus Twitter versus Pinterest for him, or also what type of content is he going to be interested in that may be related to the brand, but slightly outside of exactly the products and services the brand provides. Another look at another brand persona, Janet Lane. She is a retired nurse, and she's really starting to focus on improving her home now that she has the time. So Janet is very interested in gardening and improving her home. Because we know this information about Janet, we will likely find her on Pinterest. This is a great channel for her. So these types of information about the audience and really understanding the audience and what they do online can help to inform which social media channels your brand should be on as well. Developing content pillars, or essentially content themes, that are really a starting point for a brand to understand what types of products and services and information around those it can provide, but also stretch into adjacent and relevant aspects of that consumer's lives. So understanding the types of the themes of content that are related to the brand, but also are something that's going to be more shareable from consumers, is really going to help to increase that engagement. Local store owners can start to use these pillars to understand what types of content they not only can create, but also can curate as well from other sources. So an example here of what some content pillars might look like for a shipping company. If we take the content pillar, the romance of shipping, and we start to break it down into these other areas, looking at shipping and the art world. So what types of specific topics could come out of this? Potentially how some famous pieces of art were moved, or any intrigue, any facts about art. So while these topics may not be specifically about the products or services that the shipping company is providing, they're going to be very interesting to the audience that is interested in that brand, and they're going to be more shareable in social media as well. So now that we understand more about the audience and the type of content that's going to be interested in them, these are the social media channels that we often recommend. From a primary social media channel standpoint, Facebook is kind of a given at this point. It's the largest active social media network right now. It's a great place to be able to engage with consumers, provide that support, and have that dialogue. Also to create unique experiences and start to offer coupons and discounts through different apps. And it's really a full solution. Twitter is great for engaging with influencers that are out there, and we'll talk more about influencers here in a bit, but engaging with the community, finding other people that can help to spread the word, also finding other people that are talking about the brand and sharing those promotions as well. We recommend LinkedIn personal pages, not necessarily creating a LinkedIn company page, but a personal page for some of the employees at the local level, whether it's the owner, maybe a marketing manager, a salesperson, to start to create those personal connections with other users on LinkedIn. And then Google Plus Local, if you are a client of Location 3, which I know a lot of you on the call are, we are managing your Google Plus Local pages through our local map listing service. We do absolutely recommend that at the national level, you have a Google Plus page. There are so many SEO implications for having that branded page, for integrating with the website. And on the local level, Google is coming out with some ways to tie those local pages with that brand page to make managing those pages easier at scale. From a secondary channel standpoint, if you have people managing that really love social media, are very passionate about it, or if it just makes sense based on the audience, some of the secondary channels we recommend are Pinterest. Interestingly, Pinterest is driving a higher average cost per order than Google, than Amazon, than Facebook, than a number of online sources. And if you have an audience that is between 35 and 55 females from the Midwest, Pinterest is really where your brand needs to be. Foursquare is great from a, if you have a business where people are apt to check in, if you have specials that you can start to bring in new customers and also reward any of your loyal customers through the specials on Foursquare. If you have the capacity to create video content or have a lot of video content, YouTube is a great channel to host that content and provide that visual visual stimulus for those users. Instagram and Vine are some great ways to really show kind of behind the scenes of what's going on. Instagram is huge and growing, and it's a great way to show kind of what's going on behind the scenes on a local level, snapping candid shots of what's happening at the store level, so people can really get a more personalized feel of the business. We do recommend spending an hour per day, Monday through Friday, to manage those social media channels and look for people to engage with. You know, it's really, you could spend as much time, you could spend all day on social media, really. So trying to set something that makes sense for your business and provides enough time to be able to not only manage those channels, but also find other people to engage with. We found that an hour per day is a good amount of time. Some social media channels that you do not need to use, Myspace, either the new or the old version, unless you're in music. The old version is just not used very often, and the new version is very much music focused, so not really a place that brands need to be at this time. And then also on we mentioned the LinkedIn personal pages, we don't recommend at a local level creating LinkedIn company pages. So creating a corporate or a national LinkedIn company page is a great idea, and then encouraging employees to say they're an employee of that national page, and then having them create their own personal pages is really the way to go for this LinkedIn. So I'm going to turn it back over to Bethany to talk a little bit more about growing your audience.
Thanks, Angie. So I want to just highlight the key point here, and there's a lot of different data on this slide, but the #1 reason people follow brands in social media is to get that VIP access, that kind of exclusive deal. And so we want brands to be very relevant and interesting to consumers, to the traffic that's coming from their advertising and their paid media, but what they want to do is remain relevant, right? So according to Generation C, again, the mantra that we often say is, they will be interested if you'll be interesting. So really creating that kind of exclusive offer, that exclusive campaign, creating social-only promotions, things like mandatory likes, fan gating, those are all ways to capture the traffic and convert it into a longer-term engaged digital following. So I want to bring up a few different case studies here. And these are all clients that have run social strategies, integrated social strategies through Google. The first one is a restaurant chain. And so what they did was give away in-store redeemable coupon. It's a very simple concept, but they actually fan-gated this coupon, meaning they put a gate over the coupon online. And so anyone who wanted to access this deal would have to like the page. Very simple concept, and what happened was that they distributed over 7,000 coupons to fans. That directly contributed to restaurant ROI, sales, in-store traffic. People would bring their friends, people would return, and on top of that, their digital audience grew by 10,000 new likes. They also saw an increase in web traffic over the following months after the campaign. So really, really huge story in kind of how a small business was able to drive local, very measurable results. So the next case study is So Delicious. It's a slightly larger brand, but they also executed a similar kind of strategy to drive sales. And so they did a giveaway, a very interactive giveaway where it was over a period of time and it kept users engaged throughout the time. So this means that people were engaging, clicking, liking, commenting, and that means that their exposure went through the roof. But more importantly, they wanted to drive sales, right? So they wanted to increase their market share, create engaged brand advocates, expand their social audience, and so, of course, they ran a giveaway for 100 days. And so what they saw was their two biggest sales days during the campaign. They saw an incredible amount of entries, actually over 3,000 entries a day into these giveaways, and their social audience grew by 1,000%. So they grew from 5,200 to 59,000 fans. It's a pretty incredible story. And so, Angie, I'll pass this back over to you.
Great, thanks. Okay, so we'll move on to the second phase of really starting to create a full social media strategy, the engage, the interest, and the incentivized piece of this. So some social media, high-level social media do's, what you want to be doing when you're managing social channels and trying to engage with the social media audience. Firstly, you want to be human. You know, social media is absolutely about creating those connections with other people and with consumers. So making sure that you're having some type of brand personality on social and creating a personal connection that isn't just corporate speak. Being knowledgeable, being a thought leader, providing information that's going to be valuable and useful to those consumers is going to let them know that you are the expert in the industry and someone that they can trust when they need products or services. Being current, so talking about current events in the community, talking about and engaging with other folks in the community that are doing things on a localized level is really going to show users that you know what's going on within that local community and are an active part of it. Of course, being friendly and being open and trying to make connections with friends of friends. So using LinkedIn personal pages is a great way you can start to see those different second and third connections where you can start to introduce yourself to other people. It's really finding who those connections are and finding other ways to start to become friends of friends. And then certainly being consistent, and this is really important for franchise organizations. So understanding from a corporate level what those brand standards are, any types of imagery or creative or voice or tone that needs to be followed, and making sure that that's consistently used throughout all of the local social channels. Some things not to do on social media is promote yourself only and show off. A good mix of of content for posting on social channels, engaging with users is 80% informational and educational and 20% promotional. So you can still have that promotional piece. As Bethany mentioned, that is the reason people are following, but the ways to get those shares and to integrate and to really start to grow that audience is providing that education and that information. Don't ignore people. People turn to social media oftentimes because they can't get a response from a customer service representative in other ways, or they found they get a quick response on social media. So that's what they're there for. Oftentimes, don't ignore them. Provide them with the information and support they need. Don't assume that everyone is on the level that you are on as a brand. Being sensitive to varying perspectives, something that we often talk with franchise clients about is they're concerned with turning over control to the local owners because they've maybe been burned in the past with someone who has a political agenda, or maybe it's just very defensive. So really the number one thing to do is not to take anything to heart and to take a deep breath, and when responding to a user, make sure that you're not going to be too defensive or ostracize them, and rather just be supportive and provide helpful information. So when engaging with users, some key themes to keep in mind that help brands be successful in social media are passion, personality, and information. Passion is really going to help to connect and engage with those users and their interests, and they're going to be more likely to share that information. Having some type of entertaining personality and something that is entertaining and engaging is going to help also to create more shareability for your brand. And then just being informative, providing interesting, compelling, important information to users. So examples here of some brands that I believe are doing a great job of this. On the passion side, REI is doing a fantastic job. You can see on the image on the left here on their Instagram account, they post photos from their 1440 project. And maybe in these images, the kayak or some of the gear these people are wearing, they could be REI products, but that's not what they're focusing on. They're really focusing on the aspect that REI consumers are passionate about the outdoors, about extreme adventures, and they're really using that information to promote their consumers and through that really to increase awareness of their brand. On the personality side, I am a huge fan of ModCloth. I love everything they do, and if you can see in this example here, I'll read it just because I think it's hilarious. There's always money in the banana stand, and there's always style in the banana dress. This was posted right after the Arrested Development show was released recently. So not only was it current, but it was also entertaining and had a ton of shares. And then NASA is always great for information. It's hard to go wrong with space, of course, but they're very, provide a lot of great information that is going to be compelling to users. So efficiency is often a huge question that we get asked with franchise brands on the corporate and the local level. So some ways to increase efficiency, not everyone has to create content. There are lots of ways that you can just curate content. And by that, I mean using and repurposing content and sharing content that others have created. So some specifics here are using on the local level. National is often creating lots of content. Local owners can share that content. Sharing content from other locations within the organization. Local or national news that's relevant to the brand. Also engaging with local businessmen or organizations, sharing the content that they're creating. Also curating the content from employees or even customers as well. There's a lot of tools out there, free and expensive. Wildfire is a fantastic tool as well that can help to make management, monitoring, and measurements simpler and more effective. And then one thing we always talk to clients about is really kickstarting engagement. So if you post something on social media and no one ever likes or comments it or retweets it, it's dead in the water. But getting that initial kickstart, putting a little bit of air in the kite initially is going to help it to fly more. So encouraging staff, employees, other business partners to give it that initial boost can really help it to take off in the long term. Something else to keep in mind, I won't read through all of these stats, but visual content is extremely important in generating awareness and engagement in social media. It's what's being shared the most, it's what's the most popular. You likely know it just by looking at your own Facebook news feed. Images are getting bigger and they're being used more and more. Viewers spend more time on this, and viewers are actually more likely to make a purchase after viewing videos. So visual content is extremely important when creating and curating. Building relationships in social media, it may not just be directly with your customers, but with other influencers is very important as well. So to build these relationships, you need to find these influencers, who these people are. You can manually search for them. You likely already know them on a local level. They're the business owners. They're the people involved with local organizations. It's the local media. Starting to get to know them and understanding what they're sharing. They may be talking specifically about their business, but there may be some other topics that are relevant to them. So really understanding, just like you would offline, getting to know someone, get to know them online as well. Show them the love by retweeting what they're doing, sharing what they're doing, sharing their messages, commenting, and liking. And really what you're looking for in the payoff here is to develop a good rapport with them so that when you tweet something, they're retweeting it as well. They're sharing it as well. So it becomes this mutual sharing relationship that happens online. So who are these elusive influencers? They're really the people that draw a huge crowd in social media and have big mouths. Now, it's not necessarily the people with the largest audience. It's the people that have the most engaged audience. And oftentimes, it's local reporters, it's local business owners, people that are on the board of local organizations, any bloggers that are specifically based within the local community, or any other industry professionals within that local community. So I'll turn it back over, Bethany, to talk a little bit more about engaging.
So I want to just call out the stat, which is 30% of customers share their good experiences via social media. So if you think about kind of the 92% of people listen to people they know, listen to recommendations from people they know, and 30% of customers out there are sharing their good experiences, businesses can really use word of mouth marketing as a very, very strong marketing channel. And so number one as a business, influence those testimonials, request those testimonials. So make it very easy to provide feedback, ask customers questions, ask them to submit comments, stories, and what you're able to do then is influence your most loyal customers to drive more business. And so think about your most loyal customers as kind of your brand advocates and your word of mouth, except now they have a channel on which they can really, really easily spread this content. So Angie, if you go to the next slide, I want to share another case study with you guys, and it's around a large corporation that was using Wildfire for an operational management tool. So they were able to capture leads, drive engagement, and really scale for the enterprise. And so what you're seeing on the right is a few of their different properties, a few of their different social properties. But the main thing they wanted to do was coordinate all the marketing efforts across regional teams on a single platform, right? So they want growth, they want engagement, they want testimonials, but more than anything, they want coordination and branded coordination. So they published, so using Wildfire as that tool to scale this operation, they published over 200 social landing pages or tabs. They acquired 85,000 new leads, and leads here is defined as campaign entrants, as demographic data that someone has signed, completed an entire entry form, submitted their information. That is a brand new lead for the business. Their engagement increased by 14% month over month. They managed, in a coordinated effort, over 130,000 social messages, and that is a very, very incredible feat. If you're managing, 200 unique social landing pages, you're managing many, many different social properties. You want to have a way of coordinating that messaging. And they also, of course, saw an increased spike in digital impressions, and that's reach, that's people engaging that's people commenting, and that's people spreading the word about a brand. So if you go to the next slide, I want to share another case study with you. So hopefully these examples are very relevant and interesting, because they're very, very good examples of how clients were able to use Wildfire successfully. So business is a LASIK surgeon center, and they gave away a very, very discounted package for their LASIK services. So, save $1,000, come into our store, get a LASIK procedure done. They shared these campaigns with client testimonials on YouTube. And what they saw was 307 phase 3 leads into the coupon, meaning people around almost 400 people were interested in this coupon, and they saw a huge sales boost. So the 2 highest sales months ever since the company's founding in 1996 was gotten through running a digital campaign. And this was a 40% increase in sales from the previous year. So a very compelling story about direct sales. And so next we're going to talk about respond and measure, and how to actually, utilize social as not only an engagement tool, monetization tool, but also curating and monitoring customer feedback, which is very, very important for franchise brands. So what we think of social is that it's very much a double-edged sword, right? So people are able to quickly, instantaneously access social by going on their mobile devices. But that means that they're that much more likely to post a bad review when they're upset. And we all know that angry customers are more likely to comment than happy customers, and that's just kind of how things are. If you're having a bad experience, you will pull out your phone and post a review. And we want to make sure that businesses respond to all these user feedback on the local level. So just a very interesting stat is just that, reviews are either very, very positive or very, very negative. And so, as I mentioned, people are usually very motivated when they've had a good or very bad experience. What's even more compelling is if a business is proactive, a business is responding, then a third of people out there will remove a negative review if the business is taking the time to respond. And so what that means is that every business on the local level needs to prioritize customer happiness and amplify the local attachment. And so they can do this by really making instantaneous responses. So you can do things like monitor frequently. You can really know who's responsible, identify, the key stakeholder in this, respond quickly, very, very time-sensitive responses. You can scale this by creating standard responses, but make sure it's personal. And encourage clients to drive conversations offline. Hey, do you want to talk on the phone about this? Hey, can we ask you to, start a separate email chain about this? And of course, you do want to reward positive brand advocates. So all these are kind of best practices for that positive response, proactive customer review management. And so I want to include in here the attributional measurement of that Wildfire and Google Analytics brings. So we just covered kind of client response, kind of that personal conversation, but how do you measure a user activity, and how do you measure your most happy customers, your most interested customers? So making the transition into measurement now. One of Wildfire's most important initiatives that we've developed since coming over to Google is the Google Analytics integration. And so this link tracking enables a business to see the end-to-end user activity within social and outside of social. So this is huge. This is the most important thing for any business, is really what is the ROI of my social marketing strategy, right? How many times have you guys thought about this? How many times have you guys asked this? This is how you answer that question. You can literally put tags into Wildfire and track a user activity, activity by activity, or even track the end of the funnel approach. So really, we're trying to see not just social in a siloed channel, but social as how it impacts overall digital efficacy. So you can attribute social to website traffic. Look at how many outbound links are going towards a website website, and you can measure that social traffic using standard web metrics within Google Analytics. So one last story for you all. This is a story by Sesame Communications, and Sesame is actually one of our partners that serves mostly dentists and clients in the medical field. So they have very business-oriented approach to executing a digital strategy involving social media. They wanted to reduce client attribution, reduce client attrition, drive calls and capture leads and referrals. So number one is just drive calls, drive customers, get more leads. And so what ended up happening here was they ran a campaign that was a very kind of very engaging one, but not very relevant to their business. They ran a best pet photo campaign on social, and they used email marketing, newspaper ads to drive, newsletter marketing to drive traffic to this campaign. And they shared the winners on YouTube and on various different social channels. These campaigns also encourage people to recommend, to share, to participate, and also to opt to receive a follow-up call for the practice. And they had astounding results in terms of lead generation. Not only did their social digital audience grow by 217%, but the average campaign saw 140 leads. So that means 138 people per campaign entered all their user information to submit their best pet photo, win the prize, and now the medical clinic, the dentist, the doctor has that information. But more importantly than that, they saw 12% of every campaign participant request a call from the dentist, and 29 participants into these campaigns were from outside the practice. And this is really a great story for increasing lead generation, right? Reaching people that weren't already in your CRM and your email database.
Great, thanks, Bethany. Really interesting information on how to track and measure what you're doing in social media. Another question we get a lot is really how to manage content from a local versus a national standpoint. What should national be doing, and what should the local channels be doing? How can their content, or should their content, differ? These are really just some high-level best practices for the types of content that national and local should be creating and curating. So national really should be focusing on the broader audience connection and the utility that they can provide. They should be really focusing on the brand narrative and any industry content that's out there on a national or global scale. Engaging with influencers should really happen at a national level. So people that do not have that local focus, those people that have the larger, broader audiences. If there's a national promotion or a deal that is across all channels, this is something that national can promote on the social media channels. And then really talking about corporate culture, any philanthropic activities, any charities or organizations that the business is involved with is great content for national. On a local level, it's a lot of the same things, but just localized content. So having those audience connections and utilities, but on a localized level, when someone's indicated that they want to connect with a local business or has some type of local connection specifically. Local can start to curate that content from national already. It's already being created. There is a huge strategy in mind typically for this content, so it's great for local to just curate that content. Engaging with any of those local influencers, as we already talked about, talking about any community or store events, anything that's going on locally or anything specifically happening at that store can be promoted through local social channels. Any unique promotions or deals that are only happening at that one store. This is something that often happens with a lot of the franchise companies that we work with. Individual stores are allowed to create their own specials or promotions, run their own contests. So this is something that they can promote specifically. And then sharing store culture. So talking about the individual employees or promoting highlighting those individuals to really start to personalize and humanize the brand from a local standpoint. Something that also is very useful for brands is creating some guidelines, a social media playbook to really help local store owners to understand what types of content they should be managing, what types of, what channels they should be on, really starting to outline those brand personas. And this is also something tangible that they can refer back to again and again. So it's maybe a little more empowering and helpful than a strict policy that says, no, you can't do any of these certain things, but really trying to empower those local owners through helpful information, through approved posts or approved creative that they can use, through best practices and tips, so that they can go out and really manage social media on their own and feel that they're completely equipped to do this, rather than frightened by all that social media has to offer. If you, on a local level, would like to create a social media team, there's kind of two different ways to look at it from national and local. On the national standpoint, we definitely recommend having at least one full-time dedicated social media staff member. They may be, some of their job duties may include creating the content for national and for local, managing those communities, being the point of contact for all of the different departments that are integral in managing a social channel: HR, operations, marketing, social media, and then really being that person to gather all the performance data to show success. On the local level, it can be a little bit different. Local owners can handle, can have employees managing it by having a part-time employee, assigning social duties to a current employee that's already working there. Maybe the owner really likes social media and wants to manage it themselves. Hiring a college intern and creating a program to help them earn school credit if they're in marketing or communications, or hiring a freelancer or contractor. Creating that specific person, though, and creating duties that are for someone who's going to specifically manage social media is really what's going to make sure that you maintain activity and consistency throughout all of your social media initiatives. And so we are very excited to be working with Wildfire on a lot of these different initiatives and helping our clients to be more efficient and more effective in social media. And I'm going to have Bethany, talk a little bit about what this partnership looks like and how working with Location 3 and Wildfire together creates such an advantage in social media.
Thanks, Angie. Thank you for pointing this out. So we're really excited to be working with Location 3 as well. We over at Wildfire, again, have been experimenting and testing out this partnership with channel partners like Location 3, and we want to make sure that we are guaranteeing clients the best satisfaction possible, and that means in-store results, that means measurable ROI, that means web traffic, really around performance and measurement. And so we have coming with years of experience in social. We were actually first developed as a promotion builder, and then we've evolved into a complete platform for marketing. And so we come with kind of a lot of experience in social under the belt, lots and lots of campaigns built. I think the number is around 500,000 campaigns. And so that's why we want to first ensure client satisfaction. The second one is enterprise scale and control. So as I mentioned, monitoring, moderation, publishing controls are huge for Location 3's clients, and we want to make sure that we are partnering the right way to ensure your success. The third is, again, campaign performance and measurement. Again, over almost 500,000 campaigns built with Wildfire, and our dashboard is integrated to track end-to-end performance. And finally, the fourth is pretty exciting for partners and clients, and that is the visionary roadmap for Google integration. So we were quite a year ago, and the different initiatives and integrations that have come into play recently have been more and more exciting for Google partners like Location 3. So we are excited to kind of build these integrations in and continue innovating the Wildfire platform with Location 3.
Great. Well, thanks. So we, not surprisingly, didn't leave any time for questions. If you can imagine, the social media folks are a little too social sometimes. We are happy to answer any questions and review anything that you guys have, I'm going to actually go to this last slide here that has the URL that you can go to this URL. We have a quick survey. We'll have the presentation up there so that you can review it on your own time. I know we went through everything very quickly today. We'll have that embedded later this afternoon. And if you have any questions, feel free to submit them through that, and we can follow up directly. Again, I wanted to thank Bethany so much for doing this presentation with us and providing all her expertise on social media and really helping, hopefully helping our clients to make their social media campaigns more successful. Any final thoughts or last words, Bethany?
No, thank you so much for having me, Angie. This was great, and I'm glad I got to share my thoughts today. And again, please feel free to email Angie for any questions. And yeah, thanks everyone for joining.
Great, thank you.
Thanks all.